And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. We are back again with another not so deep dive. This time back to the Lone Star State for FC Dallas with our good friend Jose from Goals TV. How you doing?
Good, man. Cannot complain. Andrew, thanks again for having me, brother. The off season, I should say, has been way too long. I think all of us can agree on that. So I'm ready, man. We're what, few weeks out. I'm ready to get this season rolling.
Which is really funny because you hear everybody complaining like the MLS offseason is too short or too long. I guess it depends on who you are. If you were out on decision day, maybe it's too long. If you watched all the way to MLS Cup, I'm sorry, did I just flex that a little bit? I'm sorry. Did I?
I tell you what, as
Listen,
an avid MLS fan, I will still easily say it's just way too long, man. I'm ready for the season to rock and roll.
100%. And it's like, yeah, we got to give the players a break and whatever. But we'd love to see more and more and more and more and more, right? But
Yep.
the other thing we'd love to see more of are soccer scarves because that's what we love on the channel. We're here for Scarf of the Week. What are you rocking today?
Oh man, dude, a big week for Dallas Trinity. So if anybody can't see this, the blur might be in there. But
Mhm.
Lexi Massimo, huge U.S. Women's National Team prospect, now officially signed with Dallas Trinity in the USL Super League. So happened like this past week. Massive deal. It was a whole kind of big announcement at the Cotton Bowl. I didn't get a chance to go, unfortunately, weather permitting, but.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a big moment for a brand new club and a brand new league, making a statement. This is someone who easily could have gone to NWSL. So if you don't know who she is, go look her up. She's already one of the most promising talents on the women's side of the game for the U.S. national team.
That is very, very exciting. NWSL is something I've been wanting to add to my watching every weekend. But with the way MLS spaces things out, and I also just don't have time because now I'm coaching and I'm doing all this stuff. I'm like, I need to find
I
a way
feel
to fit
that.
it in. Need to find a way to fit it in because there's so much, it's so much fun to watch some of those big stars play. But at the very least, I think that might be my next venture into scarf collecting. I'm about to finish up my MLS collection. It may need to go into NWSL next, so
Yes.
we may do some of that because that's pretty cool. I am back rocking one of the old school Dallas Burn, the
Where's that?
old
Where's it
school
at?
colors.
Right
Yeah,
here.
love it, love it.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
go, baby.
there we go. Bang, bang, bang. So
Let's go, man.
I loved when they dropped this. I collected a whole bunch of them. So yeah, I picked them up and now it's the go-to. I had a like regular just kind of bland FC Dallas one, so I'm glad I found this one. It's a little bit better. Speaking of a little bit better, I think that's going to be the motto for FC Dallas this year. It was look at that. How's that for a transition, right?
What a
Pew
segue. What
pew
a
pew pew
segue.
pew. Listen, so 2024, we talked about it. There were two teams that we had to apologize for basically taking on the podcast curse. FC Dallas may have been the hardest hit team of the podcast curse in the 7 years that we have done this. And or is it seven now? We're going on season six, so 6 years. Connor and I both predicted FC Dallas to finish second in the West. So as you can kind of tell from the tone of my voice, that did not happen. Through
Did
injuries
not happen.
a series of other issues, they missed the playoffs completely. In 2025, they're going to look to rebound and get back to better ways, as well as have a bit of a better run in the cup competitions that they will be in as well. Your thoughts on the 24 season? How did it feel? Did you have as high expectations as we did, and were you let down?
If I recall correctly, when I came on and talked about that, I thought what you guys said was a little high, but I wasn't far up. I think I was saying top four. Top four is
Mm-hmm.
kind of what I just figured Dallas would do, considering that the one known piece we all needed, we all knew that Dallas needed coming into last season was just a main clinical number nine. You know, if it has a great goal scorer, he was a lot of things for Dallas in his tenure there. Someone that we are, of course, sad to see go. But yeah, man, I mean, it figured like that was the missing piece, not knowing that all the injuries would expose a much bigger issue in the back, a much bigger issue in the manager who wasn't able to adjust along the way. So yeah, man, in a really I don't know awkward fashion, 2024 just became a season that Dallas fans want to forget.
Yeah, and I think awkward's a really good way to put it, right? Like you had all these players come in who I think had some pretty high expectations because you were so hurt the year before. It's like great, you're finally going to be back and healthy, and you just got hit again and again and
Yeah.
again and again, and you couldn't get through it. And I think honestly, the highlight of your maybe from an outsider's point of view, the highlight of the season was that Martin Paez became an internet sensation overnight once he switched allegiances to Indonesia. I think MLS posts him as much as they post Messi because they just get all the Indonesian clicks. It's phenomenal. I love it. And he's also not half bad, but they obviously had to make some moves here. They've got a new coach in Eric Quill. Um, but they've added players as well. Who do you think is the best addition so far this year?
Man, it's probably a weird shout. Well, I think if you're a Dallas fan, it's not a weird shout at all. I think again with how banged up we got throughout the season, the biggest exposed hole in our team right now, from my perspective, is the back line. So I think Lalas Abubakar, MLS proven, still technically, from my perspective, in his center back prime, 29 years old. I think he had some interesting mishaps at Colorado last season, but you ask any Rapids fan, he's I don't know, practically a cult hero over there. And I think that they would have taken him back 100% as a free agent with just a better contract all the way around. That didn't really happen. Dallas got him for, I think, a pretty good deal as a free agent. So, yeah, we needed someone. And of course, we signed him before Tafari left, right? So now we still technically need a little more help back there. But I am a big fan of taking less risks with our back line, going with players who are a little more MLS proven. And Abubakar, I mean, at a minimum, he's an extremely hard worker, but he can chip in some goals every now and then too. So yeah, I think for me, he was definitely he's been the best addition so far.
Yeah, and when we spoke to Box State Footy for Colorado, they said the same thing. Like, if we could have made the contract work, it would have been like
Mm-hmm.
it would have been day one, like he's back. But they couldn't find it, and he had to move on. And I think Dallas will benefit from that for sure. I really like the Leo Chu addition. I think he adds a ton of attacking potential to the group, and I don't think he lived up to his hype in Seattle for
I
whatever
agree.
reason it may be. I mean, I think he was injured a little bit, and maybe the system didn't fit him. But he's so dynamic on the ball. I think Connor went to watch Seattle Vancouver on a trip, and he's like, the game was fun when the ball was at his foot. Everything else was like, okay, whatever. But when he got the ball, it was like, oh, something's gonna happen. And you don't know if he's dribbling it over the end line or if he's putting a back post service for Morris to finish, but something's gonna
Yep.
happen, right? And I think with a little bit more time and in a system that he can get comfortable in, I think he does find that end product in wide areas. Musa is going to thrive with his ability down the wing. I'm really excited to see that.
That's a great shout. I mean, I think, it'd be interesting to watch this season, at least with the two new winger arrivals that we have, is going to be Chu and Anderson Julio, right?
Right.
Who can play a striker at times if you needed him to for whatever reason. But I believe just watching those two guys and how vertical they make Dallas, I agree with you. I still think we're missing a pretty big piece in the middle with the 10. And that's why I say so far, if Dallas does go out and get a little ambitious and find a way to plug that gap, then that person could end up being the most impressive signing of the window so far heading into the new season. We're cutting it close now, and if it doesn't happen, it is what it is. But I actually like the Chu pick. I think he is kind of underrated right now. We don't really know what his ceiling is, and so if Quill can come in and get the best out of him, combine that with Anderson Julio, I think it's going to be a duo to watch out there on the wings.
Yeah, man. And what I'll tell you I think you put it really perfectly. The verticality is going to be huge. I think Eric Quill likes that idea of let's get high, let's get up there early and often, and let's press the heck out of him. Like, we're going to work harder than anybody else. That felt like, that when he was coming in, that felt like his style from New Mexico. And I think that'll be a really good transition here because let's face it, right? This isn't going to be a Nancy ball sort of we're going to possess the ball 150 times, or you don't have a Ricky Pooge who's going to have 700 touches more than the next closest guy. Like, it's a team that you're going to have to be clever with, and I think that might be part of the game plan is, we're going to be really, really direct. We're going to sit in, we're going to be defensively stout, and then maybe we'll find Musa in as a target nine who's going to then play off and then get the wingers high, or maybe we'll just go direct into the wingers and let Musa go and kind of run off the back shoulder of a defender. But I am really excited to see how that changes with the new Eric Quill system.
Yeah, same here. I think, you know what, man? If you wanted to make a comparison, I don't think it would be too indifferent from, I mean, different levels of quality, but from what we saw from the Red Bulls this past season,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it was literally the bread and butter, right? Finding a way to just not concede, be very stout in the back line, control what you can control, but in those moments where you have opportunity, you take it. You stretch them vertically, get the ball up the pitch quickly, and from there you have the quality up front and with those trailing runs at the 10 position to finish the opportunities that you do get. So if we're going to take the efficient model moving forward, I'm totally fine with that. I think I'm curious more about the intangibles from Quill's side, right? The hard work, the go out there and earn the respect kind of mentality. I think he
Mm-hmm.
knows what Dallas used to be, being a former Burn player himself.
Yep.
And I think now, right, I think he kind of wants to bring some of that back. So we'll talk more about it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the one other thing before we move on to departures, one of the other things that you're getting back that you didn't have, if I remember, most if not all of last season, is Paxton Comical back from injury at some point.
Oh
right?
man, at some
And
point, yeah.
yeah, at some point. So, you're looking for that number 10, or is he going to just trust Paxton to come back and be the guy? And again, I don't know what he brings. I think he's always had this high ceiling, right? He's always been like, oh, he's going to break out. He's 25 now, right? This isn't
Yeah.
19-year-old Paxton Pomykal who's like, oh, this guy's going to be, he's going to be legit. Keep looking out for him. Keep looking out for him. Because eventually that passes and now you could have been legit. So I think this might be a make or break year for him personally.
No, I agree. I think he needs that kind of pressure in a good way, right? And mainly
Yes.
because, again, it's there's so many players that we can point to around the globe, right? Where you can say, hey, look, their best attribute right now just needs to be availability, right? Like
Mhm.
we know the floor that we get with Pomykal, right? They're like pretty consistent as a box-to-box midfielder, can be creative in the attacking third at times. But if you only play a third of the games, like it doesn't really matter what you bring tactically to the team, right? Like you
Right.
do just have to be available. So I think from that standpoint, make or break is a perfect way to summarize it. We just need to see him on a consistent basis. And that leads me to believe, in order for that to happen, and not just give him a ton of minutes from the get-go, it leads me to believe Dallas is still going to be signing midfielders, right? Sebastian
Yep.
Lletget will help him out. Sabalang will help him out here and there, but we still need a few more depth reinforcements to make sure that we're not counting or relying upon Pomykal too much too early.
Yes, there's only one person who can play a third of games and still be considered important, and he's down in Florida right now. So, we
Fair,
and
very
I don't
fair.
think many people can find somebody like him. So, but what we
Agreed.
will say is that Dallas has gone through a major change in personnel. They brought a lot of people in, but they have lost a lot of people as well. Who's the biggest loss so far?
Man, you can almost take your pick from a few different areas. I think personally, I almost have two here. If I had to pick the biggest one based on just need, no emotion attached to it at all, it is Tafari, right? When you think about just what the back line needs, right? I mean, when he was out last season, Omar Gonzalez had to step in as the aging veteran that he is to try and hold down a starting MLS back line and right and try to qualify for playoffs in the Western Conference. Everybody knows how thin we are at that position, and so for that reason, like just having Tafari back alongside Abubakar could have been interesting for us. Ibiaga's still fine with me. I think again, he's kind of a lower grade option as a starting center back, but no matter what, you need the numbers, and I feel like we desperately needed someone like Tafari to stay with the core group. Outside of that, I mean, how can you not point to Ferreira? Right. I think at the end of the day, just emotionally, right? The homegrown academy product that he is, youngest debutant, youngest goal scorer, right? First homegrown DP in league history, like all of those things. It's gonna be weird not playing with him this season for the first time in a long time. Not too dissimilar from what it felt like when his dad came through and obviously eventually stopped playing for us.
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly where I went with it. Right, Jesus was my pick. DP level number 9 or number 10 or even a winger at times. Like he performed in ways that are going to be difficult to replace with, I think, just one player. Right. I think that he had a technique and tangibles that is not something that you're just going to pick up off the street or your next homegrown player is going to be, the next Jesus Ferreira. I think he had a lot to offer in different ways. He could score goals, he could create, he could play off the shoulder of a center back, he could play into the
Yeah.
half space between the two. Like he was almost like a Swiss Army knife of attacking player. Like he could do so much with just saying go out and do it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, man. I agree wholeheartedly, and that's why I think Seattle will enjoy him. Like
Yeah.
I really do. I think that the Sounders will get something good out of Ferreira. I don't expect him to have like any kind of a slump to head into the season. If it does, I mean, we've seen it from other big signings in the past. It can take a little bit of time, but yeah, I think for that reason, right? They can plug and play him alongside Morris, alongside some of the other Georgie, some of the other attacking talent they have to try and just piece together what looks like the most effective way to attack. But yeah, we'll miss him in a number of different ways. But at the same time, I'm also not, I'm also okay with the fact that we're ready to move on now, right? I
Yes.
feel like we've kind of gotten, I think, what's probably going to end up being one of Ferreira's better season, if not his best season in his MLS career. I think, finding a way to kind of just go back a little bit to our roots, not be so reliant upon one DP. I'm really looking forward to that next stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this was going to be the year you knew he was going to go, and it was just a matter of where.
Yeah.
Staying in the Western Conference probably is not the most ideal spot for him to go. But listen, it was either go to Dallas, and he's on a deal that technically he's not a designated player now, but he has the ability to rise into it. And this is going into Seattle, which we're actually going to be posting after this video. But he's got that deal
Yes.
where he can go up and make the money that he wants. And he's
Yeah.
still, what, 24? He's still got the ability to make that jump if he'd like to. So I think it's a great move for him.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, I wish him all the best. I think there's some players out there that I'm like, hey, when you move on, you're kind of the enemy now. I don't feel that way about Ferreira. I think I'll always kind of support what he stands for. A lot of fans like to troll him a number of different ways for maybe what he does with the national team or what he
Mhm.
has done. But at the same time, man, he's been so invaluable to Dallas all throughout his career. His family has in general. So yeah, man, wish him all the best.
Yep, absolutely. Do really, really well for 32 of the 34 games, right? Every time except for when we play you. Um,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah, listen, this team's got a lot of question marks in terms of positional, layout, and somebody's going to have to step up and do something that people aren't expecting out of them. Who is that player to watch this year?
Man, I kind of have two, but if I had to prioritize one, I think there's a name that fans should be watching if they're looking to learn more about a player who will step up this year. I think it's going to be Siki Sambaling. I think it's Sambaling to me. You saw it a little bit last year. I think he's an underrated midfielder. I think he is a tactical Swiss Army knife. I think you can put him out wide. You can put him in the 10 spot to kind of control a little bit of the possession while dictating where the ball goes. I was really impressed, even in the games where I feel like that Dallas had nothing to fight for towards the end of the season, right?
Mhm.
Where there's no motivation other than maybe trying to work your way up the depth chart for next season. And he was still putting in performances, putting in a shift, in Portland, preventing them from getting out of that 9 spot towards the end of the year. So I think, for me, I'm glad we extended his contract. I think he's someone that even if someone does come in and kind of doesn't give him quite as much playing time, right? We sign a big DP10 and maybe he just doesn't get the minutes that he was probably going to get. I still think he'll be someone that we can look to on the bench as an impact player. The other player I was going to say was Logan Farrington. And for the sole reason of big dog's going to eat, man. I mean, 100%. I mean, I think there's going to be rotation that has to happen with all the games that we have coming this season between him and Musa. And to me, they're a very similar striker. And I like Farrington a lot. I think he does a lot of the dirty work other attackers don't do. And I think at the same time, his finishing ability for being a rookie last season, I thought was pretty top notch. He missed, his missed catalog, you know, wasn't crazy extensive. He had some easy ones I think he should have put away, but he was a rookie at the end of the day. I'm expecting him to take a step up. I think he had 6 goals last season. Like, I would like to see him break in double digits and be a pretty significant contributor this season.
And you must have a screen on my notes because that is exactly where I was going. I am going with Logan Farrington. He was awesome in 24, and I think he is quote unquote an unknown prodigy because Dallas were just so not good last year. No disrespect to anybody on Dallas, but they were so poor that nobody was watching Dallas, right?
Fair.
So, you know, they don't some of the casuals may not know that name because he didn't get the recognition that he deserved, right? So I'd
Agreed.
love to see him go big again in 25. The other name that I would throw out there is somebody like Nolan Norris, right? Dallas has 3 center backs
Oh,
on
yeah.
roster.
Yeah.
They're probably going to have to bring in another, but if they don't, or even if they do and they get up to four, Nolan Norris is one of those names, and I've heard a lot of good things about him as he comes to the academy, and oh, this is the next guy stepping up, whatever it may be. This may be the year he has to step up and show it. So I'm interested to see how if he gets any game time there.
Yeah, I think he will. I think because someone like Eric Quill is leading from the helm, right? He understands how impactful someone who already understands how we operate, how we not just in the club but on the field as well. And he showed it last year. I think his passing range is phenomenal for someone his age. At the same time, the funny thing about Nolan Norris is that, man, I you could almost probably going into any game take the over on when he's going to get a yellow card at some point, right? Like he's just that guy. Like for me, as someone who's like a big FC Barcelona fan in Europe, he reminds me a lot of Gavi, like someone who's a very high quality player on the ball, but doesn't shy away from contact. In fact, it really embraces it, and that can work against him, more than a few times. But yeah, he'll have his fair share of disciplinary action to kind of deal with throughout the season because I imagine he'll be getting more minutes.
There you go. Well, that's good to know. Well, we're sitting here talking about a lot of players, but let's go team in general. What's the one big question about Dallas that we still have that we haven't really answered yet?
I think it's about Eric Quill. I think he was the right hire. Don't get me wrong. I think for what Nico was, and really got to keep in mind, right, with Nico Estevez, he started off on a high and then just kind of went down over the next 2 seasons, right? So,
Mhm.
with Eric Quill, I think it'll be maybe the polar opposite, right? Again, a hard rebuild season this coming season, and then finding a way to keep the trajectory going up. But what I really want to see us do, and I think this is why he's probably the best hire, is I want to see us go back to our roots. I think Dallas has gotten away from that, right? So my question would be, will Eric Quill be able to help restore the somewhat lost identity of FC Dallas over the last few seasons, where maybe we've relied too much on incoming talent from the market and not so much on combining strong MLS proven talent, 2 to 3 solid DPs wherever they might come from, and sprinkling in more than a few very solid academy products, right? That just continue to double down FC Dallas's philosophy, which is what we're built on ultimately. One of the best academies in the entire country. So I hope we go back to that. I think Eric Quill. Again, fingers crossed, but that's my biggest question. I'll be looking for that all throughout the season.
Yep. And I think it's a good one, right? And I think that's always the question when you have a new coach is he up to the challenge? Is he going to implement a style that works? Is he going to get the players that can support what he wants to do, right? And because
Yep.
that's a big thing, right? I think of something like Philly, right? Philly's got Bradley Carnell. Who are they giving to Bradley Carnell to make their magic happen? A bunch of academy kids. And I just saw that they're getting absolutely walked by Cincinnati in the preseason, and it's Cincinnati's like
Yep.
second and third group, right? Like it's going to be a tough one because Bradley Carnell doesn't have a lot to work with. So they're going to do their best, my opinion, to give Eric Quill what he needs to get, or what he needs to get to the place where he wants to go. But how long will that take, right? My one big question here is kind of along the lines of what we've been talking about. This lots of not a lot of defensive depth, not a lot of defensive quality outside of that starting three or four, however many you choose to go with. But we saw that LA Galaxy last year threw out a bunch of like 35-year-old center backs, and they won MLS Cup because their attack was so good. They kept the ball so much, they didn't have to worry about those guys behind them, right? Can
Yep.
the attack of FC Dallas make up for what at the moment on the 7th of February at 7:22 p.m. Eastern time, at the moment is a relatively sketchy back line, right? Can Dallas replicate what Galaxy did, excuse me, and be so good that okay, we can kind of go and be okay with whoever we have behind us because we're on the ball so much and we're dominating the game. And if they don't, are they going to sit in, and how deep are they going to sit? Because if they're going to try and play expansive attacking football and then get hit on the counter with all these defensive holes that they're going to have, it may be another long year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think in order for that to happen, I do think we need one more piece, one more
Mhm.
big piece, right? Because keep in mind, right, it wasn't just the loss of Ferreira up front; it was also the loss of Velasco to Boca Juniors. And so you take away two massive attacking pieces. And granted, we've added a couple, right? I don't think they're quite at the expectation of a Ferreira and a Velasco in Liao Chu and Julio Anderson. But I think at the end of the day, we still need someone in the middle of that caliber. Maybe even again someone who we feel like could be on the same level as a Patar Musa in their respective position, right? If we're going to try and outscore opponents, right, and that be how we win games. I really think we need that last piece right now. Like in the preseason game we had earlier today against Houston, in Frisco, drew 1-1. It was the goal came from Pedrinho, basically a young talent that we signed from our own MLS Next team, North Texas SC. Great little again, great little pass. Julio finished it, great. But if that's really kind of the 10 that we have right now, like we don't have another set piece, we could throw guys like Paul McCall in there. But again, it would feel as makeshift as 2024 felt. And so I think again, if that's gonna be the approach, which I agree it could be with how lackluster we are with our back line, then there has to be one more signing here. I'm putting all my eggs in that one basket. We really got to get one more signing through the door.
Yeah, somebody call up Tommy Scoops and drop some teasers or something because we you guys need it.
Man, I'm telling you that Tommy Scoops like rumor around Evander, that thing hit like crack, man. Like I
Yeah.
honestly like if we were to sign someone or even a Lucha Acosta, which has also been rumored, like those types of names would absolutely send me flying over the moon. But again, whether there's a big name or maybe more of a proven talent in South America or somewhere else,
Mhm.
just someone again to beef us up and really make the 2025 season something that none of us were expecting.
Yeah, and listen, like that one signing hinges on a lot of predictions going into this season. So I want to ask you, where do you think right now that they are going to finish, or where do you think they'll finish in your best dreams, and where do you think they may finish right now?
Yeah, fair enough. So I think right now, as the team currently stands, I think we're right about the same spot as last year, maybe a spot or two above. If I had to be realistic, right? With the pieces that we lost, which keep in mind, didn't have Velasco for almost all of last season.
Yep.
I would say the same thing about Ferreira. We were kind of in and out. And this is kind of what we have to work with. We've added some really good pieces. And so for that reason, I would put us almost as high as like that those final wild card spots, those last two. Because I do respect the additions in the Western Conference elsewhere. I would say 9 to 11. That's probably like realistically where we finish as it stands today, knowing that they're going to be ups and downs all throughout the season. If we sign someone though, things get interesting. I'm not gonna. Well, there's no way we crack top four or anything along those lines. Don't get me wrong, but I think things get very, very interesting in a playoff prediction this early in the season.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and that's a difficulty of trying to get all these done as quickly as we can. But at this very moment, on like I said, at 7:26 p.m. Eastern time on the 7th of February, this is not a playoff team. The back line is sketchy. You don't have the playmaker. You got Pitar Musa, you got Anderson Julio, you got Leo Chu, all kind of, Julio's more of a super sub, Leo Chu unproven. Midfield, I think, can take a lot of step forwards. I like your outside backs. Having good outside backs isn't really the mark of the staple of an MLS Cup champion. But listen, right now, somebody's got to be at the bottom of the table. I've got them between 11 and 14, right about where they were last year. Again, there are going to be moves. I know more signings are coming because they have to be. You cannot get this brand new coach, ship all your players out, and not have something in the works. So I know something's coming, but at this moment, it's 11 to 14 for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, and look, it makes sense. I think the part where we will be better definitively under Quill will be the work ethic side. I'm just curious to see how he sets the team up tactically, mainly with things like pressing from the front, winning the ball back higher up the field, creating those opportunities in an efficient way. So Musa sees the same goal contributions he had last season, but we find a way to continue to work our way up the table. So I don't know. I'm going in with I would say pretty open expectations. I think right now Dallas fans understand that we, at least on paper, are not a strong team. But however, I still think there's an opportunity for us to surprise more than a few people. So we'll see. Well, I think the MLS always has that funny way of just surprising. I mean, shit, look at our Dallas predictions last season, right? So has that funny way, right, of really kind of surprising fans in a massive way. But if I had to compare us to one team from last season, I would say looking at someone like Montreal, where I think they were so streaky, right? Ups for a good bit, then downs for a good bit, and it was just kind of back and forth, and ultimately they barely scraped in the playoffs. That's almost where I kind of see us, of course, optimistically as a fan looking into the season.
Yep. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. So, listen, the only thing you got going for you, usually whatever I predict, the opposite happens. So let's just pencil you guys in for the supporter shield, and we'll go on from there. Yeah.
That would be amazing, bro. That would be amazing. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Either way, man, if we get anywhere near playoff spot, I'm not gonna lie, I'm somewhat happy. If we get in, I'm ecstatic.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, with a first year coach, you got to grow, right? So listen, Jose, I want to thank you so much for hopping on here and having this chat with us. We love chatting Dallas with you. So I want to give you a minute, tell people where to find you and what you do.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Look, guys, only thing I care about in this life, really, to be honest, outside of family, is Goals TV. So if you guys want to go check it out, GOLZ.TV, you can find a ton of content on that platform, just like the Designated Players Pod. So go check that out. Outside of that, man, and I'm an open book. I love talking MLS. The season can't get here soon enough. You can find Goals TV on YouTube if you want to get any more MLS content. Got a great show there called Wake Up MLS. Work with a ton of different content creators, just like Andrew from the Designated Players Pod. So any way that, again, that you guys can provide feedback for me, content wise, Goals TV wise, I'll take all of it. But Andrew, again, bro, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Everybody should be heading over to Goals TV. It's an absolute wonderful platform. We actually just got on it a couple days ago, and it is so easy to use. Everything just pops up right in front of you. You can subscribe to whoever you want to, keep an eye on, and it is just a wonderful platform. Like I said, everybody, and I think my favorite part about it, which I didn't actually know at the time because I had peeked at it and then I went back to things. I didn't realize that you're able to separate it out based off of topic, right? So if you're looking for MLS content, there is a whole section just for MLS content. You're looking for international stuff, there's international, Premier League, college soccer, even with our good friend Simple Coach. What a guy. There are tons of different ways that you can go and figure that out. So please go ahead and get over there and just start taking in the content because it is all soccer all the time over there. So thank you again, Jose, for being here. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you for everybody for listening. We will see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. See ya.
See ya.